Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte, and we're continuing our lineup prediction series videos today as we head out west to the Sin City to take a look at your Vegas Golden Knights. We're going with the Toque today, and the Golden Knights, man, this team had a pretty big change in between the pipes. That was really the big change for the Golden Knights, but we're going to be going over all of their situation going into this year in today's video. So let's start off with the forward group. I think that's really the most contested thing for the Golden Knights this season. We know that Kelly McCrimmon had made it a clear point this summer. He wanted to add some more centers. No credit to Chandler Stevenson, but they wanted some more depth behind Chandler Stevenson. And I think they're one of those teams that's been in on Jack Eichel. I think that's been pretty apparent. But obviously nothing's materialized at the making of this video. So, how does this team look? I think for the most part, they're off-season, which we talked about in our season prediction video, or season preview series. We took a look at the Golden Knights. This summer was more about the Golden Knights keeping guys and retaining them and not letting them go to free agency and go somewhere else. Specifically, you're looking at guys, really guys like, what's his name? I can't find him. Mattias Janmark, Alec Martinez. Those were all guys that were potentially on their way out, and they ended up sticking around in Vegas. So looking at your forward group, you've got Max Pacioretty, Chandler Stevenson, and Mark Stone. A very similar top line to what we saw last year. Pretty much the exact same line. Again, I like Chandler Stevenson. I think the Golden Knights like Chandler Stevenson. You probably don't prefer him to be on that top line, but that's the lack of depth in terms of top tier, high-end centers that they're lacking on this team. Second line is also going to stay practically the same. Jonathan Marchessault, William Karlsson, and Riley Smith. So that's going to be your second line. I do like that line as well. I think this is very similar to what we saw last season. Again, Marchessault, Karlsson, I like all those guys. I think it's a great group. And then the bottom six looks a little bit different. You got actually a completely new third line. Brett Howden, Nolan Patrick, who just signed a 2-year bridge deal, and Evgeny Dadonov. So you had a little bit of scoring there with Dadonov. Brett Howden also brings that little bit of a game, more of a two-way guy than when he was drafted. He was traded for by the Rangers this summer. Nolan Patrick also comes in that big three-way trade with the Golden Knights where they lost Cody Glass this summer. That was the big loss for the Golden Knights this year. They bring in Nolan Patrick, a bigger guy, was actually drafted higher than Cody Glass in that draft. So there's your third line. Fourth line, you've got, again, a guy returning. Mattias Janmark returns to Vegas. Nicolas Roy, who I think a lot of Golden Knights fans like, and Keegan Kolesar I have rounding out that bottom six. There's a couple of guys here, depth-wise, that you may be saying, why aren't they in the lineup? You have guys like William Carrier, who is definitely going to get some ice time. Jack Duggan is another guy that was drafted by the Golden Knights in the first couple of rounds. Peyton Krebs, their first-round selection back in their expansion year, I think it was 2018. He's had some injury issues. That's the reason he fell in that draft, and that's been really hampering his development. But he looks like a really solid player. He may be a guy that jumps into that group this year. So keep an eye on that. And you also have Sven Baertschi, who I think is more of just a depth pickup, a cheap guy to bring in, has some experience in Western Canada in particular. It's kind of weird not seeing him in Calgary or Vancouver. He's now down in the States with the Golden Knights. Also, another big name missing here. You may be wondering, where's Alex Tuch? Alex Tuch is injured to start the season. He's probably going to be out for a little while. So with Alex Tuch out of the lineup, that definitely does change the complexion a little bit. Maybe you see a guy like Riley Smith or Dadonov higher in the lineup because Alex Tuch isn't there. So there's your forward lines. Looking at defense, you gotta like what I've seen from the defense here. You've got Alex Martinez and Alex Pietrangelo. That is your top pair from last season. I don't think that Pete DeBoer is going to make any changes to that. Second pairing, you've got Brayden McNabb and Shea Theodore. Kind of the same thing as last year as well. Just not wanting to change that. I think it's worked out well. Why would you change that? And again, Martinez and McNabb both came back to Vegas on the first day of free agency. They decided they were going to test the market. Where did they go back to? They came back home to Vegas. Now the third pairing is a little bit interesting because you've got some young guys in there. You've got young Nick Hague and Zach Whitecloud, who I think a lot of Golden Knights fans expect to get into that, into that first or second pair. Maybe not this season, but in the future as they continue to develop. Those are guys to keep an eye on in terms of moving up the ladder. They start off on the third pair. Maybe as injuries come up this season and next year, they jump into the second pair, and then maybe trades happen and stuff like that, and they end up finding their way into that top two pairing as their development continues. I think the Golden Knights are very excited for these two players, guys that were drafted by the Golden Knights. So I think they're really expecting them to kind of be the first real prospects that they've had develop, and that kind of goes for Peyton Krebs as well this season. And again, they've given up a lot of prospects over the last couple years. Ooh, this toque is very itchy. Not one of the reasons I like toques. They're very itchy. But, yeah, with that said, I do like their top six. I think that's pretty much set. They haven't, again, they may, before the beginning of the season, give out some PTOs to some veteran defensemen just to give them a shot. But right now, they've got Dylan Coghlan and Braden Pachal, who are really the only names I saw that would have any real shot at making the roster, quite honestly. So I do see something here where maybe they get somebody just to, nip at the heels of Hague and Whitecloud in training camp. Just somebody as a seventh defenseman to bring up. I think that is something that the Golden Knights will absolutely do. And then with that said, your goaltending. You've got Robin Lehner returning, as Pete DeBoer has made it quite clear that is his guy. That's his number one. And they bring in a new French goalie, and it's not Marc-Andre Fleury. Fleury, for free practically, as they terminated the contract of the guy they got from Chicago. Traded him away for nothing. The face of the franchise for a long time since their expansion year. Fleury will always be a part of my Golden Knights history, as I have his jersey. The Kevin Forte curse, I guess you could call it, because within a year of me getting this jersey, he leaves. Thank you. That's on me. The Golden Knight curse, the Kevin Forte curse. And then you've got Laurent Brossoit replacing him, and I think Marchessault was actually saying in a couple interviews, he was saying he's got the most French-Canadian name out there, because obviously Jonathan Marchessault from that area as well. Laurent Brossoit didn't know a lick of French, so I think he was kind of teasing him during training camp and in the locker room about that, which I think was funny. But yeah, I think for the most part, I think the Golden Knights, there's still going to be that question that they didn't add that Jack Eichel. They didn't add that big name center. And again, I'm surprised they weren't more in on a guy like Christian Dvorak in Arizona. Again, maybe the Coyotes didn't want to trade him there, but they're no longer in their division, so why are you so scared of that? I guess it's better to have him... Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's better to have him on the East Coast in Montreal. Maybe that's what it came down to. But definitely interesting, because honestly, I think Dvorak could have beat out Stevenson as the top... as really that first-line center. So, again, would he have really fit? Because he is a little bit of a slower player, maybe not. But I'm surprised they didn't go after him harder. You're not going to get Tomas Hertl out of San Jose. That's a fact, especially with their rivalry there. But I'm interested to see what the Golden Knights do, because they're one of those teams like Minnesota. Minnesota and Vegas seem to be the two teams in the West Coast that want to add another big name center, and it's going to be a lot easier for Minnesota to get Hertl than it is for Vegas, if we're just being completely honest here. So, like I said, I think the Golden Knights, they are probably going to win that Pacific Division. I think they may have some competition from Edmonton and maybe Vancouver. Again, I'm a little bit on the fence with Vancouver, but Edmonton, again, you got McDavid and Draisaitl really going into their prime at this point. But I think it's going to be Vegas and Edmonton. And other than that, I think it's going to be a pretty smooth sailing regular season for the Golden Knights. But the question is, we're going to see teams like Seattle on opening night in Vegas. And, how are they going to be able to handle that that new team in the room, because I think the narrative of Vegas has changed a little bit. Because when their first season, they were the team, the island of misfit toys. They were the team that, that nobody wanted these guys. They left them unprotected, and that has not been the what's the word? That hasn't been the drive for them recently. It's been more, oh, you didn't play well this season. All right, you're out. And that's starting to become the culture under Kelly McCrimmon. I mean, you look at what he's done with some of these guys. They're there for a year or two, and then, boop, see you later kind of thing. So, again, that's the way they run things. I think it's worked for the most part. I think everybody sees Vegas, perceptually as a very good contender, at the very least in that Pacific Division, but definitely in the Western Conference. I think there's a lot of questions that are still going to need to be answered, and I think it comes down to, is their center depth deep enough, and are they comfortable? Is Pete DeBoer comfortable enough, maybe equalizing out the bottom six lines a little bit more with the top guys? Because we know at the end of the season the fans were, like, why do Marchessault, why does Stone, why does Stevenson, Pacioretty, why do they look so drained in that Avalanche series? Because they were shot. They didn't have the depth that the Avalanche had, and at the end of the day, that was the difference for the Vegas Golden Knights. Actually, no, they played Montreal. Excuse me, they beat Colorado. They spent their tank though in that series, and then come Montreal, they were completely shot. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the rest of this lineup prediction series and the rest of our videos, and our coming videos as we get into the regular season, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time.